What is up, my friends? We are back. Myself, Steve, and Chris are here to not just speak about the victory over Arsenal, but of course the crazy end to this summer's transfer window. As we sit here right now recording this, we've just received the news from David Ornstein that the deal for Marc Guehi is in serious jeopardy and could well be off. We will try to keep you as up to date as we can as we proceed. But, gentlemen, I want to start with the game yesterday, and Steve, I'll come to you first. Happy with the result and the performance in general over the course of the 90?
Just on Guehi, sorry. I texted, I'm good mates with David Ornstein, sorry to be a name dropper, but I just texted him saying definitely off. He just texted back saying, yep.
So that one then looks like it is off. So thank you for the inside scoop on that one, Steve. And can you hear people's hearts breaking? Look, we'll get stuck into this in a little while because we do have strong feelings around the way people act in these deals and to get them. So we'll move back to that. But on yesterday, Steve, clean sheet, a very familiar Canade back, the one that we know and love, and just an all-around better defensive performance.
Yeah, a lot better, wasn't it? The first half was a bit funny. It felt like we were sort of like a little bit too passive for me. I felt in the first half, but then it wasn't as if Arsenal didn't come out all guns blazing, did they? They looked a little bit more in control. I felt, than we were. We were kind of struggling to get a foothold in the game, struggling to get up the pitch. But yeah, defensively we looked way better. We know how good they are from set pieces, etc., etc. I thought they were, for all the farting around with corners and the taking ages over them and the weird setups, like we just headed everyone away, and it was pretty straightforward, wasn't it? So, and then second half, I really felt the game completely changed, and we got better and better and better, and they just, I'd be really despondent with that if I was an Arsenal fan, because I felt like they didn't do anything. They've spent an awful lot of money, as we know. They didn't offer anything else. On top of last season, Kerkez for me looks like a complete bad fit for the way they play. Thought Madueke was good, but I don't know. It was all said by the guys after in the Sky Studio, wasn't it? That they see getting a draw in these big games as being a good result, and they've done it over the past 2 or 3 years, going to City and getting draws, whereas the best teams go and win against their rivals, or at least you go and make a statement. You try and win. You put the pressure on. So yeah, it was a good win, and the goal needs a whole podcast of itself, doesn't it?
It does. Chris, to kind of go back to Steve's point there about these big games, clubs against each other, I always use the games against Man City as the measuring stick, because that was Pep and Jurgen at times just saying, my basketball team's better than your basketball team, and we're going to put the ball in the net more than you are, and we're going to figure out a way to get this done. But my God, it was entertaining. That yesterday, from an Arsenal perspective, was turgid, is the word I'd like to use.
I think you're spot on there, mate. Yeah, I was there. It was it was really shocking, actually. I was really nervous going into the game, as I think a lot of people were. It was, this is a game that could potentially define where the title goes at the end of the season. I thought they'd come out and go for it. And when they have done, they've actually been quite unfortunate not to win at Anfield in the last couple of seasons, especially I remember when they went 2-0 up and Bobby scored in the last minute to equalise. Last year, obviously, with the Erdegaard playing basketball, whatever, when that was a couple of years ago now. But yeah, they've come out and actually played. But I didn't see that this time. And this is a team who I thought potentially were title favourites, and they sort of embarrassed themselves. I think it was a genuinely embarrassing performance. A team that should be going out there and gunning to win this title, just was a sort of petty, timid, mid-table like performance throughout the whole game. I think Alisson made one save in the whole
one shot on target, I think, in the whole game, didn't they? I think
it was that half volley from the edge of the box.
Yeah,
first half.
So yeah, they were completely outplayed, especially in the second half. I thought defensively, mate, I'm sure we'll go on to it, but defensively, I think every single one of them to a man was exceptional after all the batterings we've given.
Absolutely. And I want to move across the line from one side to the other defensively, Steve, and start with Milos Kerkez, because, yes, sir, that was the Milos Kerkez that we thought we were getting. You know, he may not have had the speed to win a foot race at Madueke, but he made sure he got back around into position. And yeah, people were like, "Oh, Arsenal corners," but he was doing his job. He was blocking those crosses, and I was very, very impressed.
He was a lot better, wasn't he? He's been the one that probably I've had the most question marks in the last couple of weeks about. I mean, not like how good he can be, but how good he maybe is now, and whether or not, you know, maybe just for now, for this season or for the first half of this season, Robertson might not be a better option. But he looked fantastic yesterday. I thought there was a couple of moments in the first half, weren't there, when you, like you say, he was in a foot race with Madueke and it didn't go well for him. Should we say it? Looked a bit like he was running in quicksand at one point. But he, fair play to him. He stuck to his guns. He didn't give him an inch after the first probably 20 minutes. Looked a lot better yesterday. And I think that there's no coincidence that maybe, it coincided. There's no coincidence it coincided. I know, what I'm trying to say. There's not a coincidence that it happened on the same day that Konate was a lot better as well. As a unit, they were just miles better, weren't they?
So, Chris, my favourite Milos Kerkez moment of the whole game came with the challenge of Max Dowman right at the very end of the game. It was like a beautifully timed sliding challenge, come up, come away with the ball, and then goes on a burst down the left-hand side. I loved it.
100%. And actually, he's been taking a lot of stick from everyone for jumping into tackles too early. But yesterday, he was the opposite of that. He was actually standing off really, really well. And that one moment, I think that sort of epitomized the performance. Like, he picked the right moment to do that challenge. Whereas the first couple of games, he's been a little bit nervy with that. Really, really happy. If he continues to show that, and shows potentially more prowess going forward against teams who aren't going to have players of the ability of the Semenyos and the Elangas and Maduekes of this world, then he's going to have the ability and the chance to show his attacking prowess as well.
In the central part, Steve, I thought both of our centre backs yesterday were top notch. We know what we get from Virgil, aerially dominant, calm as you like, but yesterday he didn't have to be mindful of who was to his right as much because Konate really, really from the off looked like the old Konate. Yeah,
almost as if somebody wondered if there was someone coming in to take his place away, wasn't it? Like it felt like like we expected from him last year. Authoritative. It was a bit easier for him, I think, in a way, because Gyökeres is just a bit of a big lump, isn't he? Like he'll go and stand up against the centre halves, and if you can win your headers, and Konate is quicker than him, so he can win the foot race. You can bully him a little bit. That's a kind of a centre forward that I imagine Konate kind of thinks about has been his dream opponent. So yeah, he was just miles better, wasn't he? Just looked a lot more confident. Do we think it was just cramp at the end? Was that what the verdict was?
Yeah, he's been confirmed as being at Clairefontaine with the French team now, and I've met up with them.
Fine. Yeah, so that's a good thing, especially obviously with what's happened tonight, that hopefully he sticks around and we get back to just looking nice and solid, because I thought, just all over the pitch, we just looked really solid yesterday. And as I said, they only got, one shot on goal made a big difference.
Who would have thought, Chris, that we've unearthed the world's best right back out of nowhere? We've got this Hungarian contingent left and right back. And I mean, very simple. You want someone to score a free kick, play them right back. We've learned that as well.
Well, he's making a rod for his own back, isn't he? Because he's actually, he's probably been he's going to come in and be our best right back this season already. Obviously Bradley and Frimpong getting back to fitness, but it's a good way to get him in the team, because a lot of people were thinking like, oh wow, like how are we going to fit Szoboszlai into this midfield? Well, actually we don't need to. Just lob him at right back, it's fine. But no, I thought he defended really, really well 1v1. Great against Eze when he came on. Just in general, like another brilliantly commanded performance. I think he's had an amazing start to the season. A few question marks some people might have had, not personally, but some people had a few question marks around his future and where he fits in, but he's shown that he can do it in multiple positions. And yeah, look, I'm just thoroughly excited to see what happens else for the rest of the season, whether he can score a few more bangers like he did.
Well, Steve, we've messed around long enough. Let's get to the free kick. Let's get to the good stuff. What were you thinking, mate, when there was three of them standing over the ball at one point and they hadn't made a decision on what was happening? I was thinking it's probably on the edge, too far out for a shot, but what was going through your mind?
Well, see, I'll tell you exactly what I was thinking, because I was aiding my 2-year-old twins in having their dinner at the time, and I saw them all congregating over a free kick that looked way, way, way too far out to be even think about hitting. And I paused. I've 2-year-old twins. They're a bit fussy if they're eating at the moment, so I paused the telly for a second, and I was helping one of them get this lasagna into his face as he was trying to chuck it all over the floor. And then at that second, I get the BBC notification of the goal, and I quickly just lobbed his lasagna on the side and put it on. So I evidently had little or no confidence that a goal would result from that free kick situation, because I wasn't watching. But it was extraordinary, wasn't it? I mean, how do you hit a ball like that from that distance with that amount of pace, that amount of turn, and beat a keeper that actually, he's had his critics over the last, couple of years, but maybe the last sort of 6-8 months, last year or so, he's been as good as anyone, I think, hasn't he? And he's a good shot stopper. So yeah, it was unbelievable. And I think, like you've said, it just capped off a really, really, really good performance. We're asking lads who've been in midfield their whole life, or to all of a sudden play a different position, not just for your Sunday league team where it doesn't matter, but at the very highest level in the biggest games against really, really, really good attacking players. I just thought he was just fantastic. And I'm, with you, Chris, I never had any doubt whatsoever that you've got to find a place in that team for him. He's just an unbelievable footballer.
Well, it was obviously the ball's fault, Chris. We learned that in the post-match analysis from David Raya earlier on. Actually, do you know what I loved? I loved that Joe Hart on Match of the Day was actually able to break it down and go, well, no, we actually did everything right. It was just too good of a free kick.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, find me a goalkeeper that saved that, went off the inside of the post. It was just an unbelievable goal, wasn't it? I don't think I've seen a better goal live. In my sort of over 100 games going to the match, I genuinely don't. It's just the technique, the just everything, the moment, the situation, everything, all about that goal. We've been really treated so far this season. Three games and 3 moments of magic. Obviously, we can't rely on those forever, and we need to make sure that we're ahead and we can settle in games without needing these moments. But it's good to know that we've got them in our locker when we need them, especially from 35 yards out. If you'd just a squint, it maybe look like a Steven Gerrard free kick.
Well, we are now 3 wins from 3, amazingly, gents. Man City have lost 2 from 3, again, amazingly. We are clear at the top of the league, 2 points clear of Chelsea. So let's ease into the transfer window, Steve. And let's start with a negative. Let's get the negative out of the way. So as you mentioned, just as we were coming on, the Marc Guehi deal, certainly as we all sit here now, looks to be off. David Ornstein believes it is off, according to Steve's recent messages. So thoughts on this, Steve, and what message this sends out to other footballers in these moments of, do I be a professional or do I throw my toys out of the pram?
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because a lot of people have praised Guehi for the way he's handled this whole situation, and the same people have put the knife in on Alexander Isak, and it looks very, it looks like one's got his move and one hasn't, and it's fairly obvious, isn't it? In this day and age, it seems if you chuck your toys out the pram and you make a fuss and you kick and scream and you don't play, that's how you get your move, because guarantee Isak wouldn't be getting his move if he turned out for Newcastle for these first few games. They'd have put the foot down. They'd have known he'd have been unhappy, but they'd have said, well, he'll stay and he'll play. And I think that they'll know the same with Guehi, and I hope it was there were reports of him sitting in a hotel room, medical done, a deal sheet submitted, personal terms agreed. There have been reports of him sitting in this hotel room with his family, waiting for the call to say go up to Liverpool and get it all done, get started. And I hope it's not exactly like that, because we're messing around with people's lives and their careers and everything here.
Steve Parish has been bullied by his manager. Let's be blunt about it.
Well, bullied, but he's got a manager that's in really high demand, hasn't he? You know, a lot of clubs. He's been linked today with Leverkusen after obviously Ten
And
Hag lost in 5 minutes.
do you
And he's
think there's
gonna-
a world where he wouldn't jump at an opportunity that he thinks is best for him
Well,
and his career?
Yeah, but you see, that's the problem, isn't it? Like you sell one of his best players under his nose when he's said explicitly over the last few days, I don't want him to go because we haven't got a replacement. If you then go behind his back and you do what you as a club or a business want to do, then he's gone, isn't he? You know, you're not keeping hold of that manager. So
let me
it's
push
a
back on that
calculated
point
risk,
a little bit. I got to push back on that a little bit because I've heard this quite a bit. And let me look this. So we didn't get a defender in. Cool. Next summer rocks around. Oliver Glasner knock, 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 and Steve Parrish's door and says, "Mate, we're losing Marc Guehi, need a centre back." Sorry, bro, no money. Couldn't bring in 35 million last year. So now you've kicked the can down the road. You got the season with him, but you still can't afford your centre back long term. Who wins?
Yeah. I mean, you could be right, but I think he's just taking a calculated gamble, calculated risk of the kind of least worst option, probably. I don't know. It's a really disappointing one.
It's one, Chris, where it's not really a surprise that Marc Guehi might move on, right? This isn't exactly earth-shattering news that he was in the last year of his contract and they were expecting 35, 40 million quid from him. So if anything, he should be unhappy at his chairman for not getting him in the replacement, on top of the fact that they've had time to plan for this.
Well, yeah, and obviously he's done his due diligence, Guehi, and he's played, he's got help get them into the Conference League, he's captained the club, he's behaved impeccably. Surely that in exchange for potentially a dream move of his to go to a club like Liverpool where you're competing for the very best honours, all four of them all the time, it's only fair enough on him. But look, we're looking at this from our point of view. From Oliver Glasner's point of view, he's probably seeing the fact that he's got a player who could potentially enhance his club's position by 2 or 3 places by the end of the season.
35 million quid?
Yeah, probably.
No,
yeah,
it's not. Not a fucking chance.
Do you not think positionally
Are Palace going to get relegated? No. Are they going to qualify for the Champions League? No. The qualification for the Europa Conference League is worth 4 million.
Yeah, in terms of like league position potentially, though, it might be worth a lot of money to Crystal Palace. I can understand 100% why he would want to keep him, because he's not a businessman. Steve Parish is, and I think that if he got his way today, Guehi would be in a Liverpool shirt. It's just the way of the world, unfortunately. And Glasner's, as you mentioned, kick the can down the road, and they might not have, potentially have offsetted a lot of money there that they won't have next summer.
I know you say about, it's very unlikely they get involved in a relegation fight, but they haven't got such a strong team that if you take 2 or 3 really, really, really key pieces out, it could easily be enough you lose 10, 15 points in this league easily.
But they didn't have to sell Eze, Steve. There was no release clause in that. They chose to sell Eze.
Yeah, they did, but now we've come to the end of the transfer window and they're left with the situation they're in, and I can understand it from their point of view, thinking this is, if we don't, they've bought a 19-year-old kid, haven't they? He's a defender, I think, and obviously they wanted the lad from Brighton on loan, didn't they? But he's going to West Ham or gone to West Ham. I can understand it. The thing is, if we've got the Konate that played yesterday, it isn't a problem, is it?
True.
It's not a problem for us if we've got that guy for at least 6 months or probably the whole season, and he stays fit. It's all right. It's not the end of the world, this one.
Maybe Steve Parish, in terms of like that, he's weighing up the values of it. You get 35 million, but you probably lose your manager, who is the best manager in their history, not even a doubt. Or you keep that player and then you keep the manager, and potentially the offset is you finish a few positions higher and then you get someone come in to pay for your manager. I think I'm trying to make sense of it business-wise in my head for Palace.
There's no sense of it business-wise.
The manager's a massive one. The manager's a massive one, isn't it? Like, it has to be. That's got to be a massive factor here. And you're right. Like, he could have been facing a situation tonight where he's lost Eze, Guehi, and the trust, at least the trust, if not the actual person of his manager. And like I say, they're not, they're a really good team, Palace, but they're not. We've seen, we've seen better teams get stuck in a relegation battle than Palace, and everybody's been strengthening. I can see it from their point of view, and I think
what's the upside to it?
Yeah.
What's the upside? Genuinely, what is the upside to this? What's the best case scenario for Crystal Palace?
Well, their captain stays for a year.
Half-arsed, doesn't want to be there, stabbed in the back, but still want loyalty.
I don't think he's a half-arsed player kind of guy. I think he's the kind of guy that goes, all right.
He's a moralistic guy who's been fucked over by his chairman and manager, broken promises, and now we're expecting him once again to be the model pro and go back in there and save Crystal Palace this season. I'm not pushing back on you guys with it. I just think it is an idiotic decision financially for a club like Crystal Palace, because we're gonna. I'll read you out something right here now from Chris Williams. Sources went as far as to say if Guehi left, he'd offer his resignation. Glasner, Liverpool senior staff now travel back from London, expected that a deal for January will be discussed, but at a severely lower price. So they've got half a season with their man, and they're still going to lose him, and they're going to get less money.
Yeah, I suppose when you put it like that in layman's terms, it's like it does feel crazy, to be honest, for them. But I get it; they've not got a replacement in, and they might lose their manager. He's got 6 months, but 3-4 months to convince Glasner to keep his job if Guehi goes. Basically,
and Glasner best pray results are going in his favour as well, because he's made a rod for his own back here now as well with the chairman. He's gone up against his chairman. That doesn't usually end well for a manager over the longer term when you've gone up against your chairman. But here's what I'm really confused about, Steve. We've seen earlier on in the day, Joe Gomez, AC Milan at one point, Joe Gomez and a couple of others. Why no Joe Gomez loan here to tide it over for 6 months?
Yeah, I mean, it made perfect sense, didn't it? Yeah, can't answer that question.
Is there anything to do with Charlton maybe in it, or rivalry with Palace? Or
what I would say, going back to, a sort of question of keeping people on form and keeping them fit. An on form fit Joe Gomez and Marc Guehi, there isn't masses in it, is there? I don't think there's a lot in that. And I think that if again, the big thing with Joe Gomez is keeping him fit, isn't it? That's been the problem for the last few years. But I think if he stays fit, he can fill in any position across the back four. I'm disappointed because I would have liked Guehi, but we've got to kind of get out of this shiny new thing kind of mentality and think like, what is there? And we're probably okay, at least for 6 months. We're probably okay there.
For me, honestly, hand on heart, I'm angry on behalf of Guehi at this point. For us, we're fine. Like I've said, we've got Leone, as Steve rightly pointed out. If this is the Canada we're going to get, brilliant, no problems there. We've got Joe Gomez still at the club. So for us, I always thought we were going to be fine. But I'm just annoyed from his behalf because of how astoundingly professional he's been. Even playing last night, Chris, up at Villa for them.
It's the thing is, I know what you're like, Craig. You're very much a man of like a black and white, and you see it as that. And you've basically seen, as you said, ISAK, Garnacho, etc., get what they want by behaving like dicks. And I don't blame them for doing it because they've got what they want. And now we've seen the polar opposite, a guy who is completely, he scored an absolute screamer last night for the club that he wants to leave and captained them into the Conference League. And, he won them the FA Cup, probably one of the greatest players in their history. And he's been fucked over. So it's like, to put those black and whites against each other, it feels wrong, and I do feel sorry for him, as you mentioned. But as you guys have also said, I think we'll be okay for 6 months. But it just would be nice to have him, wouldn't it?
What we do have, Steve, is a new confirmed number 9 at the football club. Video O'Connor of Sky just saying ISAK is a Liverpool player. He has left the building and is expected to wear the number 9 shirt.
Mega, isn't it? I mean,
not too bad. This, Steve, is a break the transfer record twice.
Yeah, I mean, we've got to take the disappointment of Guehi in the context of it being an extraordinary window in every other respect. And Leone, as well, we're talking about Guehi, like Leone's in the Italian national squad, and he's 18 years old, and he's honestly built like the
He's not
Terminator.
18. I need birth certs. I
He's
need
built like
videos
the
of his mother
Terminator,
giving birth, timestamps.
What a ridiculous physique for a kid.
Imagine he's coming home with your 17-year-old daughter in 15 years, Steve, and go, "Oh yeah, I'm 18. You are,
You're
yeah."
30, aren't you? No, I mean, so if we take our disappointment, we park that to one side. It's been an extraordinary window, and this, really polishes it off. I've got so much to say on this. It's just been really bizarre, hasn't it? We probably all knew this is where we're going to be on September the 1st, talking about this as having happened, whether it happened last week or week before or 10 minutes ago, and it's been absolutely extraordinary to see the way Newcastle have handled it, the way certain journalists in the biggest inverted commas possible have handled it. We've seen the difference between reporters and journalists. Journalists who interrogate facts or things they're told, and reporters who just blindly say, "Well, I've been told this, so this is the fact."
We'll just call him Luke, just for argument's sake.
I know this certain gentleman wants to stay in with Newcastle, and it's really integral to his job to have good communication, good contacts with that club. But the guy is reporting things as fact that he cannot have believed himself. The
man went on and gave the full Taken speech on social media, and start bragging about how he's keeping notes and going to be laughing at people. And that's the part that really wound me up. It's how far he went.
And then he gave it the one last night that we should all be praising him for breaking the exclusive.
Oh, I seen that. He was having to go Ben Jacobs over it, even though with different sources.
He was, and I know, I know that other people have got a lot of abuse because they've said something different to what Luke Edwards has been saying. So I don't know that he's very popular with the kind of Liverpool press pack. I don't know if he's very popular with a lot of the sort of transfer journalists because of the way he's been talking about things. But I just, the whole way that Newcastle have handled it for me has been absolutely bizarre. They've sacrificed their first 3 games on an ego trip to try and appear like they're playing hardball, and we all knew that it would end like this, and it has. It's
a relief, though. Let's be honest, it is a relief. And Chris, I mean, it would be remiss of us in all this praise and criticism not to speak about Hughes, Edwards, and FSG and the club. All of them deserve extreme credit, massive plaudits for both the way that they've gone about the business, for the targets that they've brought in, and for the intent that they've showed here. It has been quite simply a phenomenal window, and all of them, to a man, deserve huge credit.
100%, man, 100%. And they've rightfully had critique before. Let's just say this: they have rightfully had critique, but that doesn't change the fact that they rightfully deserve praise this window. Obviously, it seemed very un-Liverpool to start with, but the more and more the window went on, the more and more it was so Liverpool, the way that they operated. Look at the amount of money we've recuperated and actually gained profit on for players who aren't going to play or weren't going to play or who wanted to leave. I think the only one we've had a cut a loss on was Darwin. The rest of them we've actually made a profit. And Darwin, by the way, wasn't an Edwards Hughes player. He was a Klopp signing. So listen, I as you say, to a man, loads and loads of credit. Do I think it'll all come together maybe this season? Who knows? But what we know is the future of the club's in really, really safe hands.
Connor sent me a graphic, Steve, earlier on of the 9 big signings that we've made, and it really looked like an Avengers Assemble kind of piece. It's just truly phenomenal to have seen it. But I also want to speak, and amongst all of this, about Cody Gakpo and his new contract as well, Steve, which is a great sign.
Oh, massively, yeah. He's, I've not perhaps always been a massive fan. He didn't really convince me sort of playing down the middle when Klopp used to play down the middle. But back on the left, back end of last season into this season, he's been brilliant, hasn't he? And you know what? He looks like a really good guy as well. And I think that counts for a lot. I think he seems like a really level-headed lad. Loads of potential still. He's still only young, and he would forget, he feels like he's been around for a long time, but he's still only young. And I think, yeah, really, really, really well deserved for him to get. I'm guessing the money that he's after. The interesting thing for him is, with ISAK coming in, is now kind of where all the pieces fit, and I think he's going to be one who's probably, going to have a conversation with the manager at some point and say, just, how's this all going to shake down, because it's going to be interesting.
Competition for places will lift levels, and Chris, I will always credit you being the very first person who ever introduced me to the idea or the concept of Cody Gakpo when he was at PSV Eindhoven.
Yeah, absolutely, man, absolutely. I'm happy to hype him up, and I just really, really love him. Just one of my favorite players. The thing is with him is that I think he's really got a niche where he will always have a place in the squad because he just scores goals. Like he ever since he signed, obviously he had a bit of a struggle to start with. We were in a real tough period anyway. He came into his own in Jurgen's last season, unbelievable in the Euros, and then carried that on into Arna's. And I think what you can see about Slot is that he absolutely trusts Gakpo 100%. It's very, very rare that he's not in the starting 11 these days. It's very rare. Even last season, he actually put Diaz in the middle. Gakpo was often playing on the left throughout the whole of last season. Yeah, listen, long may he continue because he's just such a good option. And I don't know, with the whole Ekitike, ISAK, who's going to play on the left sort of thing. But I imagine he will play a lot of football.
Steve, before I move to my final question for you both, a little word on Harvey Elliott and a move to Aston Villa alone with an obligation for 35. We've no confirmation or denial of a potential buyback option in it. I don't know as we sit here, but thoughts on that deal?
It's a sad one, I think, isn't it? And I think, yeah, it's a sad one because we all know he's made no secret of the fact that he absolutely loves the club. We talked about this last week, didn't we? That he would never have really agitated for a move. He never made a fuss. He isn't that kid. And he's a really, really, really good player, isn't he? He's probably just, and this is no disrespect to Aston Villa, but he's probably there, isn't he? That's his kind of level. And that's not a bad thing because you still, you're walking into a club where you're probably going to be one of the best players in a team that's top 8, top 6 in the Premier League, but he's not good enough to get a regular spot in our midfield, is he? But I am really sad to see him go. I do wish him all the best. I texted a Villa supporting mate of mine earlier on, and I said, honestly, you've got an absolute belter there. You've got an absolute gem because I think he'll be great for them. I think every Liverpool fan would wish him all the best.
Absolutely agree, 100%. A good lad underneath it all, and whether we see him back or not, I guess remains to be seen. So, Chris, to finish up, give me your favourite signing, and there's a lot to choose from, Chris. Give me your favourite one and your reasoning behind it, and same for yourself, Steve, as well. If you want, what you're thinking, I'll go.
Favourite of our ones, or favourite just of the whole?
Favourite of our signings of the 9 we've made or so. So for me, I'm going to say it's Wirtz because that gave me the belief that 1, the owners are serious, 2, that we can attract this elite level talent and put the convincing nature presentation together to get him in. And that to me signaled serious intent. So for me, I'm going to say Florian Wirtz.
I hate to be that guy, but I'm going to agree with you. And to quote Rio Ferdinand, Ballon d'Or, he will win one.
I think he could, we certainly in with a shout. And for yourself, Steve?
Well, I would probably agree. But in the spirit of offering a slightly different opinion, I'm going to go for Milos Kerkez because I think he is potentially, best left back in the world type. Potential we're talking about there. So getting him nice and early for a good fee, really, really, really smart business, that one.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will be back next week, same time, same place, where we'll have a few more bits and pieces and information we can tie all this together with.
What do we talk about now the transfers are gone?
I know, it's terrible, isn't it? How am I going to make a living now, Steve? I don't know. I might have to actually
make videos. No more ISAK to Liverpool videos anymore.
I know. Oh. People are like, no more, Craig, no more. Like, are you joking? Look at the numbers.
We can all unfollow. We can all unfollow all those Newcastle fan accounts we'd all been following for a laugh.
Oh, I'm not unfollowing them just yet. I have a bit of unfinished business with some of them, Steve. But for now, ladies and gentlemen, thank you to Chris, thank you to Steve, thank you to you guys for watching, and enjoy Alexander Isak, your new number 9. We'll talk soon. Bye-bye.